Good afternoon, everybody. If you are joining us for this afternoon's conversation on homeschooling, I'm glad you could make it. I'm terribly sorry for the late start. The software that I tend to use for this conversations is showing me flames nowadays. Yeah, but we are back on. We managed to get the connection going. I am with Andre Williams. He's with me on the other side. So this was supposed to be a rebroadcast of Andre's conversation this morning regarding homeschooling. And why homeschooling, you might ask? We particularly brought homeschooling up because in traditional schools, kids are expected grade 7 and 12s are expected to go back to class this coming week, and school is supposed to continue as well, not as normal, but it's supposed to continue. But we've realized that a number of parents are opposed to the idea of getting their kids to go to school, because of the obvious concern around coronavirus. And is the school prepared? Is the Department of Education sufficiently prepared? And there's all sorts of questions around the preparedness, but also just the whole element of risk where this is concerned. So I've known Andre for a while, a few years now, and I've known that his kids have been through homeschooling. They're young adults now, and so they've been through the system. And I now know other people who's put their kids through homeschooling. And so yeah, as I said, this conversation is a follow-up or a add-on or a continuation of Andre's conversation he had this morning around the very same topic. It has been an interesting. There's been huge interest around homeschooling, and therefore I don't see it as a waste of time, but I see a continuous interest. Hello, Andre. Sorry for not introducing you first.
Hi,
Can-
hello Antonio, and anybody else who's online from your friend list.
Yes. It's so good to have you. Thanks so much. Thanks for sticking out through my technical drama the whole day. But finally, we are here. Sure.
Yeah, no, we've had issues since this morning.
Yeah.
Before my live feed, and the link didn't want to work. And
Yeah.
I think maybe we found out why it didn't work. But yeah, no, I'm glad just to be here again, just perhaps to
Yeah.
share with some of your friends that weren't able to see this morning.
Great. So just by way of introduction, tell us who you are. Tell us why you are interested in homeschooling. I've mentioned that your now adult kids have finished homeschooling, but you continue to have an interest in homeschooling. Tell us a bit about who you are and why you're still interested.
Well, let me say that I've always been interested in law. So at the age of 17, I went to university, Western Cape, at that time, and at the age of 20, I completed my first law degree. 14 years later, when I was a magistrate already, I decided to complete my LLB degree, and so I am also an admitted advocate of the High Court of South Africa. I'm currently also a magistrate or presiding officer.
Right.
Um, we decided to look into homeschooling because our eldest daughter was struggling in school at the time because she was dyslexic, and we were looking at other options because it was frustrating for her to be in school. And so the one Monday evening, I went to a homeschooling information meeting. That Monday night when I got home, I said to her, and my son was, I think, in grade 1 at that stage. Caleb, I said to him, you can start to say goodbye to your friends on Thursday. I'm taking you out of school, without really having all the knowledge that I have now.
Yeah.
But I just knew that it was the right thing to do. And so by the Thursday, the kids were out of school. And then we unschooled them. Unschooling simply means that we decided to let them do nothing
Right.
while we do research on what is homeschooling all about, what are the different curriculums that's available. And it was in 2000. Our eldest daughter is now a qualified massage therapist. Our son is a musician and songwriter. He has written 2 songs that won international awards. He's written number one songs in South Africa. He works with Sketchy Bongo, with the artist of The Voice, who I forgot the name now. So he works with various artists. Our youngest daughter is 22. She's a photographer, and she has never been in any school, whether public or private. So, um, yeah, so they have got no
Wow.
social issues. Most of the time, we get the question, "What about
Yes.
social integration? How will they cope socially?" But
Yeah.
my kids have got no problem with regards to socialization. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Just on the, so you mentioned something critical, which I had as a question. In fact, is the transition between what do you call traditional school and homeschooling? That transition, is it something one plans for? Is it something that people who are now faced with COVID-19 fears and concerns, is it something that they can transition from into, like, within days, within, how does that work?
Look, I think you can take months. I mean, we look now, the schools closed in March already. It's now 2 months down the line. So,
Right.
in a sense, some children did not have access to their teachers.
Yeah.
Some did not have data, laptops. So they've only had their own books, which they had when they left school. Um,
Right.
so not everybody was able to get up to speed with what was going on. Not everybody had access. So in a
Correct.
sense, they've already, in a sense, been unschooled. Unschooling simply means that we are so indoctrinated in a sense that our children gets up in the morning, get dressed, you drop
Mm,
them off at school, you pick them up in the afternoon, take them home. They've got extracurricular activity, so it's ingrained in them. I must get up in the morning. Um,
yeah.
and now you have to tell them, okay, unschooling simply means just do what you want. And sometimes you will find they will read by themselves. Um,
Yeah.
they will do things out of their own without having been told to do things.
Right.
So it's getting out of that rut of getting up in the morning, getting washing, getting dressed, and going to school. To getting out of
Sure.
that rut, and then because education is only but one part of who we are as human beings. We are
True.
far more than just our education. Um,
Very true.
Many sometimes don't get taught in school, but it is part of our education that we give as parents to our children to have good
Yeah.
manners. To make sure that they are mentally strong, and whatever the case might be. So, education is but one part of our lives as human beings.
Right. That's true. Eh? So you prepared some content, I know, for this morning's session. Is there anything specific you could share with us around the process, or the planning or the execution when it comes to homeschooling?
Okay. Look, home education has been enacted in the South African Schools Act since 1998. Um, when I say we, I'm talking about the Pestalozzi Trust, is
Yeah.
a trust which was established in 1998 to defend, in a sense, and to ensure that the rights of parents to homeschool their children is protected.
Right.
For the children itself as well as for the parents. So
Mm.
in 1997, it became part of the South African Schools Act under Section 51, which then says a parent may apply to the head of department for the registration of a learner to receive
Yeah.
education at the learner's home. So homeschooling is education that the child or learner gets at the person's home.
Right.
Now it says that the head of department must register the learner as contemplated if there are satisfied certain requirements have been met. For instance, that is a registration in the best interest of the learner. Um,
Yeah.
if we look at this current situation, I cannot see how they cannot say it's in the best interest of a learner, for instance, to homeschool now. In
Mm.
fact, the education department itself, the officials, the minister, and the MECs of education implore people to almost apply now for home education, which which we have been saying all along, should be done. It
Yeah.
should be more
Yeah.
recognized. Um,
True.
so the definition of home education contract is a means or a purposeful program of education for a learner, alternative to school attendance,
Yeah.
which is provided under direction or supervision of the learner's parent or sometimes a grandparent or guardian,
Mm-hmm.
and which may include the material that is necessary for that.
Okay.
Now, subsection 3, for instance, talks about compulsory school attendance.
Yeah.
Now, the compulsory school going age is between the ages of 7 and 15. So we as parents raise our children up until they're 6, 7 years old, and then we take them to school, and then they attend school until they hopefully finish a matric at the end of the day. But school compulsory age is between 7 and 15. Now,
Yeah.
most of the time now, the focus is on matriculants. Almost every year, the focus is on matriculants.
Mm.
But if your child is in matric already this year,
Yeah.
uh, it is almost certain that the child is no longer 15 years old, unless they're very genius, unless they're genius. But most of the time, they already 16, 17 years, 18 years old when they are in matric. So for those parents, you do not need to register for homeschooling.
Mm.
You don't need to register for homeschooling because school going age is between 7 and 15. So
Yeah.
immediately the parent can take a breath and, okay, I don't need to complete any application form because my child is in matric and I have to apply for to the HOD to accept my application. The child is 16 years and
Yeah.
older, no need to make any application. Um, it says, for instance, also, that because of the if a child is not at school, is supposed to be school compulsory. The head of department may investigate the circumstances, um, take appropriate remedies to try and remedy the situation, um, write a letter to the parent to comply by putting the child in school, unless the parent has a just cause not to. Now, we have a coronavirus, which is a deadly virus, according to everybody in the world. Now, that in itself is a just cause, in my mind, to keep the child at home. And I mean,
Mm.
I seen many people on social media. They would say, "I don't care if the school's open. My child's safety is of
Yeah.
paramount concern. I am not going to send my child into that environment." Now, the other thing is sometimes parents ask, if my child does do homeschooling, what is the process to get started almost with homeschooling? The first thing that we always tell parents is join the Pestalozzi Trust. As I mentioned earlier, I am a trustee. I am one of the permanent trustees of the Pestalozzi Trust. The founder, Leonard van Oostrom, had a master's degree in education. Sadly, he passed away a couple of years ago. But his wife is still our secretary, our manager. She receives all the applications for people that join the Pestalozzi Trust. If there's any snag or legal issue with regards to the Department of Education or an official or sometimes social workers, you'll be surprised how many interventions I've had with social workers who go and intervene because the children play outside during normal school hours. And so there's either a neighbor or sometimes a relative that would report that parent who's decided to do homeschooling. And then I have to intervene and ask, do you know anything about homeschooling? Do you know it is legal? And then most of the time, sometimes social workers are not aware of this. So the first thing that we tell parents is to join the Pestalozzi Trust. Now the fees, I know sometimes people ask what the fees for the trust, is around about R1,000, around 1,200 a year, not even a month, which you can pay off in monthly installments in any case. Sometimes the more children you have, the less you pay. But that is a yearly fee, it's not a monthly fee. So if there are any issues, I will either get involved or we'll appoint an attorney if it's somebody from another place. If need be, we went to the High Court at one stage to ensure that the parents' rights unintentionally, it was an issue between parents and grandparents at the end of the day. So the first thing is to tell them, join the special auditors. Secondly, you can write to the school and tell them to take your child out of the school. You do not need to give them a whole detailed reason as to know why you've decided it, or you don't have to tell them now you've registered with the education department, or what curriculum you're going to follow. That is sometimes some of these questions by some principals that ask these things and make these demands before they let your child go out of school, as if your child is a prisoner, which is not the case. Of course, we as parents have the authority and the responsibility for the education of our children. That is our responsibility.
Right.
You know, we give them responsibility over at times when we send our children to school, but the responsibility still remains with us. So at the end of the day, you don't have to give them notice, and that is it. We advise parents, take time to see what curriculum is suitable for your child. Don't buy the first thing that you see, because sometimes people can be overwhelmed with the information that they receive. So that's why take 2-3 months before you decide.
Right.
Take 2-3. Make informed decision as a family at the end of the day. Speak to the child. How best does the child learn? Sometimes children are audiovisual, so they learn better by seeing a video and seeing somebody on there than by reading books. There are various programs available. We have what we call an eclectic approach. An eclectic approach simply means that sometimes you would take maths from this curriculum, you would take the English from this curriculum, in order to help your child to learn best. And that is an eclectic approach. So sometimes you wouldn't really follow a complete program. They are available. We've got service providers like Brainline, for instance, that everything is online, and they follow the school curriculum in a sense. So you write your June exam, you write your September exam, your end of year exam. So through Brainline, you can actually get your matric as well. There are ACE, Accelerated Christian Education, that you get through. There's UMPAC, but there are various curriculum suppliers and providers out there. So do not be in a haste with all the things to buy. See what are available. Go onto a Facebook page. We've got a Homeschooling South Africa Facebook page. Apply there, and you'll see some of the questions that parents have, and whether there's more seasoned homeschooling parents would then reply and give them information. There's a whole support system in South Africa for new parents.
You know what, Andre? What I've found is that parents, and I'm not wanting to take a stab at anybody, but I found that the people that stab holes at the homeschooling system don't know its benefits, don't understand it in its entirety, hasn't seen it working, hasn't seen the fruit of it, or see the type of children that the system produces. I'm just getting a reverb. I'm trying to check where it's coming from. So I spoke to, quite coincidentally, after your talk this morning, I got to speak to an old colleague of mine who I know moved from Johannesburg to Sada in the Eastern Cape, and she at that stage made the decision to homeschool her two kids. The one only had 2 years left at high school, the other one had primary school still to do, and the older one went on to university to study a degree. I think he's doing his first year now. The other one, she was telling me that the younger one has so much come into his own and has developed as an individual like you never believed he would develop, She told me such beautiful things about this child that you can see the type of adult he's going to become because of the person he is already, And a whole lot of other things that make so much sense. And also at the start of this year, we gave him the option to go back to traditional schooling. And he said, no, he doesn't see the need to go back. He doesn't have time to wear uniform. Typically like a child, and he's enjoying it. The nice thing is, because we travel for business, Johannesburg and the Eastern Cape now, the children often travel with them. And
Yes.
as a result, schooling goes with, there's no change. They, for example, got into a routine and discipline where what the child does. And so wherever they are, irrespective of where they are on the earth, he continues doing what he knows he's supposed to be doing. So that's the beauty about it. What did you tell to parents who were concerned? I think we are all too much stuck on having a matric result, a matric outcome. And if you look at the amount of matrics that are stuck at home today, all because we were so purposeful in choosing matric. What do you say to parents that are stuck in that rut, who are adamant that the child must have a matric?
Yeah, I think, because of our own parents, the idea that, you must have a matric in order to be successful in life. To become something in life, you need a matric certificate if you want to study further. But studies have shown that there's no correlation between academic achievement on the one side and being successful in life. Those are two different things, because you can find somebody that does not have a matric that can be as successful as a person. And I think that is homeschooling develops you as a person. And as you say, the family can travel, for instance, without any restrictions, because you can do homeschooling from anywhere in the world. You're not confined to your house. If you travel, you can do that. I think because of fear. And I always say fear stands for fantasized experiences appearing real. Fear that the child does not have a matric certificate, the child will never be successful in life. Now, if your child needs a matric certificate in order to pursue his or her career, then the child will get it. No problem. Because that is a passion. If you want to become a lawyer, or if you want to become a doctor or whatever, obviously you're already smart. So getting a matric will be nothing. And there are various means for you to get the matric. And some people go through Cambridge, which gets higher international recognition as well. So you find many of them doing matric through Cambridge, which our universities accept as equivalent to a matric certificate at the end of the day. So there are many of South African homeschoolers that got their matric through Cambridge, and they are registered at our universities. Right. We've helped with students registering. In fact, University of Pretoria a couple of years ago, they registered a homeschooler who has not even finished a matric to start with the first year at university doing a degree in music. Companies, for instance, like Coca-Cola and Pepsi in the States, they have targeted almost homeschoolers, because they found that homeschoolers are very disciplined. This morning I was saying, my daughter would be up at 11 o'clock at night doing maths at the end of the day. And then because she doesn't need to get up in the morning to get ready for her to go to school. It's a mindset that needs to be changed. My fiance, 14-year-old daughter, we are going to homeschool her now because she's excited to homeschool. She doesn't need to, because my daughter Carla would tell her, you know what, I enjoy my life. I enjoy my life. And as I said, education is but one part. My son, who's 25 years old, does not have a matric, for instance. Neither does the youngest one, Carla, have a matric. As I said this morning, Carla, for instance, I never let her write any tests, exams. Up until when she was 15, I spoke a college essay because she was interested in photography. And I called them the morning. They said, well, she should be 16. I said, well, she's 15. They tell me, okay, hold on. Speak to the supervisor. They said, okay, no, we'll register. Without asking for any papers to show what has she been doing up until between the ages of 7 and 15 at that point in time. She did a year course in digital photography, never wrote any exam, and she had over 90% in her assignments. Wow. So what does that mean at the end of the day? We find that countries like Finland don't even do assessments anymore. The only
Mm.
time that a child in Finland would write a test or exam is that when they have to go to college or university. They don't even give
Right.
homework anymore in Finland. So they've looked at, let us develop the child or the person, and then you get a
Mm.
better citizen at the end of the day.
Correct.
The whole education system has changed. Um, but our education system is not changed. There are so many ways now that people can be successful. Online
Mm.
marketers are making money, and they're successful. Some of
Yeah.
them don't even have money. I always make the example. Let's say Jonathan Butler did not have a matric. Nobody
Mm.
goes to his show. Jonathan, please just show me your matric certificate before I
Yeah.
show. Right?
Yeah.
I don't
Very
think
true.
anybody's ever asked Jonathan, do you have your matric certificate?
Very
Right?
true.
Because when you go pay for his gift, you go and listen to his music. You don't care whether he's got a matric certificate. You pay
Yes.
for his,
Yes.
and that's what people and we as believers do. Is that the Bible says that, your gift will make room for you. Your gift will. So homeschooling has an advantage that your child or your children can find their gift at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um, we did so many subjects at school. Biology, I did biology. I failed biology
Yes.
in June and September in my matric year, but I still had to do
Right.
it and I eventually passed. But I don't do biology in my career. I don't do geography in my career.
Very true.
So
Very true.
homeschooling is not trying to bring the whole school system back into the house, and that is where a lot of parents have that fear: must I be a teacher in order to do the homeschooling?
Yeah.
No, there is no requirement for the mother or the father, whoever, to be a
Mm.
teacher in order to do homeschooling. It's not a requirement. It's not a
Yes.
requirement. You did not have to apply when you want to become a parent.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't have to apply. You
Yeah.
you just registered your birth of your child at
Yeah.
Home Affairs, but you did not attend the course and say, okay, now I want to be a parent. And then the government said, no, it's okay, you can be a parent.
You can be
No,
a parent. Yeah.
you are a parent. It is ingrained in us as parents to look after the best interest of our children.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Just
if a
under.
child needs a
Yeah.
matric, great, the child will get
Mm.
a matric and will carry on to
Right.
university. And my daughter went to college for 2 years, and she's got an
Correct.
international recognized qualification as a massage therapist. So
Yeah.
if you need it, you are going to get it at the end of the day. But there's no correlation between academic achievement and being successful in life.
Very true. Absolutely
Are
true.
you still there,
So yeah, no, I am.
Antonio? I don't
So
hear you.
sorry, you can't.
I've, I think I've missed Antonio. Or there I see you now.
He, okay, great. Can you hear me?
I can hear and
Can
see
you
you
hear me?
now. Yes.
Okay, great. I'm back. So Andre, just considering people who has been through traditional schooling, like most of us has been, we've been through matric or whatever grade we've achieved. That's all we often have in our minds. And now we're exposed to the call it a fairly new concept, which hasn't been, it's not all that new, but it's been around, but because we didn't know about it, it's now new to us. So if we have parents that are sitting there, the kids are in school, they're waiting for school to open, and now they're saying, whoa, I like this idea. I like the type of person that homeschooling develops. Where would you recommend them to start? What would be a good place to start in terms of familiarizing oneself with the systems and almost preparing yourself and your family and of course the child for this leap into homeschooling?
Mm. Um, as I said, join the Facebook groups. The Facebook groups
Yeah,
for homeschooling. There are a lot of new parents in there. Even last night, I was scrolling through the pages that
yeah,
I belong to, and that is you get a wealth of information because in the groups they would ask, can anybody tell me about this curriculum? And then you'll have a parent that will tell you what's happening in that
yeah.
curriculum. So you don't have
Right,
to go and research a lot of things. Join the
right.
Facebook groups, and there you will read without you having to ask for anything. There might be an answer in that post, and you scroll there
Very
once you've
true.
been accepted, and then you get all the information because once you have all the information, then you can make an informed decision. At
Right.
the end of the day, I think when you speak to your children, you look at the different curriculums. You go into the website, and see what the curriculums are all about, and then you make an
Mm.
informed decision. There's no rush, even if it takes you 2 months, even if it takes you
Yeah.
3 months.
Yeah.
At the end of the
Yeah.
day, your child will never lag behind. We've
Right.
had parents and children that do 2 grades in 1 year, 2 grades in
Yeah.
1 year.
Wow.
So nothing is impossible. Um,
Very true.
and I'm for if people's circumstances change, then they want to put the child back into the school. The school cannot say no. We don't want your child back now. You see, the Constitution says every child has a right to education. Section 28
Right.
says
Very
in
true.
all matters to children, the best interest of the child is of paramount importance. So even if a school wants to say no, you can't have a child there,
Yeah.
they will get by the courts at the end of the day. Are you now determining the child shouldn't have a right to education because your processes tell you the child should not be allowed in the school?
Mm.
You know. So
Mm. Very
we've had many instances where I take on principals regarding their own rules, which is in
yes.
conflict with the Constitution, which is the highest law in the country. You know,
Right.
and the
Absolutely.
Constitution says any law which is in conflict with the Constitution is already invalid. It's
Right.
already invalid. You don't have
Yes.
to declare
That's
it invalid. It's already invalid.
yeah.
You know, those
Yes.
regulations that the schools have is not above the Constitution at the end of the day.
Right. Okay, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. I just want to request the individuals who are listening to us this afternoon, if you've got any questions, I know Vidonia is listening, Shane Jenica is listening. They're saying it's very interesting. If you have any questions, you can post it in the comments and we'll have a look at that and see how best we can respond to it. Not me, Andre would respond to it. But I'm sure there's an answer to everything. Homeschooling has been around for many years. And so the challenges that any new family who attempts homeschooling encounters, there's more than likely an answer for it already. I
Yeah.
like the fact, Andre, that you guys have the Pestalozzi Trust, which is an entity. If I'm right, it's probably an NGO, but it's an entity that is there to look after the legal rights of homeschooling and the children and the parents, etc. And you guys have done some amazing work through Pestalozzi already. You've cited some of the examples, eh?
Yeah. No, I mean, it is because of the Pestalozzi Trust that
Yeah.
homeschooling was recognized as African Schools Act, because we went to
Wow.
Parliament at the end of the day and to ensure that it gets written. It's the only other alternative besides private school is home education.
Yeah.
You see, it's
Yeah.
recognized in there. So we have got it right now because of the dynamics of education, and even in South Africa, you have both parents sometimes have to work, or if you're a
Right.
single parent, the parent has to work. But now your child has special needs. So now the
Yeah.
child does not fit into a public school, or
Right.
the fee for private school is so high that you can't afford it. So
Right.
where does that parent fit in?
Yeah.
Because that parent
Yeah.
also wants to have some education for his or her child, but the child does not fit
Mhm.
into the public school system, does not fit into
Yes.
private school. So
Yeah.
the result of that, cottage schools, as we know it, so smaller schools, it started to boom all over
Mhm.
South Africa. All over
Right.
South Africa. So even though there is no requirement in the South African Schools Act currently to
Yeah.
recognize them, they have to register as private schools at the end of the day.
Right.
But the forms that they must complete, almost like school for 400,000 children at the end of the
Yeah.
day. But schools is where a small group of children, 15, 20 children, that a parent know, okay, I can go and drop my child off there, and
Very
I can go
true.
fetch my child.
Okay. So,
Child gets
so
some education.
right. So if I understand it correctly, cottage schools are typically for parents who are full-time employed and they don't have they're not home during the day to be able to oversee the learning of the child. So that type
Yeah,
of individual, that child would go to a cottage school.
yeah.
Is that correct?
But sometimes, yeah, that is correct. Yeah, but if there is a grandparent, or parent,
Oh,
or
yes.
a grandmother at home as well,
Yeah.
then I mean the child. can stay at home. You can get
Yes.
tutors that can come to the house to come and give your child specific subjects at the end of the day, so the child can
Yeah.
still be at home. Either a grandparent or at home even as well. But for for places where they are not, a cottage school fills that need at the moment.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Um, just two questions from my side, Andre, before we end this afternoon. From a cost point of view, how have you found the cost of doing homeschooling versus traditional schooling?
And I would tell you, it was not even a third of the amount that people would spend on school
Right.
fees.
Yes.
No, I've people that spend 10,000 rand a month on school fees, 5,000 rand,
Yeah.
7,000 rand a month on school fees. I can tell the
Yeah.
curriculums are not that expensive. Not that
Right.
expensive.
Right.
And your children will grow so rapidly. That is why we
Mhm.
tell people, don't rush to buy curriculums. Find out what
Yeah.
your child's interests are and almost
Right.
channel the interest of the child towards those subjects. And that is why,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
said, your friend earlier said, the child is bloomed, which
Yeah.
might not have never when the child was in a public school environment, and
Sure.
that is why I say
Sure.
home education allows a child to bloom and to be more happier than being bogged down sometimes with I have to do this, I have to do this assignment, this
Right.
assignment, because
Right.
every teacher gives you homework to do, and you don't get to be a child anymore. You don't get to be a
Yes.
child anymore. Parents sit
Yeah.
up till 8 o'clock at night trying to
Yeah.
finalize assignment for their children, and then get up in
Very
the
true.
morning and get to work and sit and you try and finish the project because it's so much homework now. Imagine if your
Yeah.
child now, if you tell a child next 3 months, don't worry about anything like that. Really? It's like, what? No, don't worry. Just do what you want. Lay in front of the TV, read books, and just go play outside and go play sport, tennis, or whatever. Um, Sometimes people would ask us about
Yeah.
socialization. You will even find that some of the schools in the area where the child lives
Yes.
allows the child to come and play rugby for the school team or cricket or whatever the case might be. We even have
Right.
that with the
Right.
school said your
Right.
child can come and play, be part of the team. So the child will still have that interaction as well. So yeah, no, it is
Right. Very
homeschooling.
true.
Uh,
Very true.
I mean,
There's,
before there
there's,
was
yeah.
homeschooling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's many ways to cross the socialization bridge. You mentioned earlier that our children generally interact with cousins and friends and neighbors' kids. Apart from that, if you wanted the child in a more structured socializing, there's sport clubs all around, and most kids have a social interest or a sport interest. And if you look at it, the amount of flexibility the kid then has, for example, if your kid plays cricket, for example, or has an interest in cricket, cricket happens Saturday morning, Sunday afternoon, club cricket. So the kid
Yeah.
can play cricket. If you were to play soccer, soccer training is Thursdays and Tuesday evenings. So he can play soccer. Whatever there is, if he's interested in art, there's so many clubs and social gatherings where these things are concerned. So it's very easy. I've got a question here, Andre, from Shane Jenica. Shane says, what support systems or structures are available for new homeschooling parents? I think you've touched on that briefly. Support systems and structures.
Also, as I said about Facebook, but depending on where it stays, I'm not sure where Shane stays, for instance. But in the Eastern Cape, for instance, we have the Eastern Cape Homeschooling Association. In
Right.
Cape Town, we have the Cape Homeschooling, Cape Home Educators. So every province almost has a homeschooling fraternity.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
once you join them as well, you will find out there are other homeschooling parents in your area even.
Right. Very
And
true.
so a lot, and in East London, we had quite a few families that would come together twice, 3 times a week. Um, and
Yeah.
so the children
Yeah.
would interact and the mothers would ask questions because there's always that fear yeah, are we doing the right thing? You know,
Yes,
a year down the
yes,
line, you're wondering, am I doing the right thing? And that is the biggest fear. For
yeah,
all of us, we started out. Um, when I moved to Kimberley, I had my children assessed at the education department here
yeah.
in Kimberley. And so they did the assessment, and then they discovered that our children were, in fact, 2 grades ahead
Mm.
of the public school system.
Wow, wow.
You know, they were 2 grades ahead, whether it be English, maths, or whatever. So they were two
Yeah,
grades ahead of the peers at that time. Um,
yes,
so
yes.
sometimes you don't realize your child is in fact learning when you think your child is not learning.
Correct. Very true, eh?
You
Very
see?
true. Yeah, it's absolutely true. So there is a support systems all around the country, in fact, all around the world. Shane, I think, is in Port Elizabeth. So I'm sure he'd be able to bump into parents and connect with parents. The nice thing about interest groups is that people find people.
Yeah,
If you want to do thing, like with anything in life, really, you will find an interest group that would be able to support and guide and so forth. Also, I must just point out to everybody that's listening and very interested, you shared a number of great links of resources, which I will share in this post as well when we end, which is great resources for parents who are saying, um, I want to do this. You know what, Andre? The biggest thing for parents, for us as parents, I should say, is the transition in the mind for ourselves. Thinking
yeah,
that I think the idea that we don't want to fail our children is huge. When our children are so ready for something like this that you really can't explain it. And our children learn every day, whether they are in school, traditional school, or outside
exactly.
traditional school. They are learning. I remember when I had the conversation about the birds and the bees with my sons. When I asked them, "Do you know what it is?" and I explained, and I thought they knew nothing. Eventually, they taught me some things, and they asked me questions. They asked me questions like, "Dad, do you know what rape is? You know what?" And it's like, whoa, you actually know more than what the topic at hand is. So I think we underestimate our children's
Yeah,
capability. Here's a comment question from Dr. Glennis Peterson. She says, "I'm a senior educationist and would have homeschooled." Oops, I can't see the whole thing. "I am a senior educationist and would have homeschooled with I had more knowledge about it." That's so true, eh?
mm,
Had we known more about homeschooling, we would have probably done it earlier. Especially my youngest, who is highly intelligent but quite introverted, would have blossomed. That is absolutely true. I was speaking to Ronwen earlier, and she was telling me about a colleague of hers who has a physically challenged daughter. But this girl is brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. She is too brilliant for the systems that are there. She cannot
yeah,
go to a, for lack of a better word, normal school.
yeah,
But so what happens? I'm saying
yeah,
homeschooling. This child will probably develop into such a beautiful person
exactly,
from go. Anyway,
exactly.
yeah, I can rave on about homeschooling forever. There's Shane is saying, "Thanks, guys. What does he say? Thanks, guys. This watch along has been very informative." Yeah, it is. It's a new concept to many people simply because we haven't known about it. But
Yeah.
for those of us who now know, we can't plead ignorant. Any final thoughts from your side, Andre?
I think when people must not be scared, although it is something new, we as human beings have the ability to adapt, and so is our children. Um,
Yeah,
we, 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 we learned to adapt to the coronavirus. We couldn't, the country is in lockdown. You can't go where you want to. We couldn't do this. You can't do that. You can't
yeah,
buy this. You can't. Do that. And we've learned to adapt. And so the same thing with education. Um, it is now more so, more people are aware because remember, if unless you, as I said earlier, unless you had an issue with your child at school, you wouldn't be seeking alternative education. Now,
yes,
suddenly everybody talks about homeschooling, and I mean, which has been around
yeah,
for I've been involved for over 20 years, and I always say I'll probably continue to be involved. I still speak at homeschooling conferences around the country. When the last one was September last year in Cape Town. I'm also
Yeah.
from PE, by the way. You don't know, I'm also from PE. But yeah, so at the end of the day, do not let fear stop you. Do not let
Yeah.
fear stop you.
Yeah.
It's a fantasized experience appearing real. Sometimes you just imagine that things might not work out. But what if you imagine things do work out? And you sit with a
Yes.
better
Very true.
child at the end of the day. You sit with a better
Very
child,
true.
better human being at the end of the day. You will see our children are very, they are agile. They will thrive at the end of the day. We as parents
Very
have the
true.
fear sometimes. Our children's like, when can I start? When can I start? When do I start? You know.
Yeah,
But,
that's true.
there's a lot of
Oh
support
my
out there. A
word.
lot.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. I must point this out to you. Tomorrow afternoon, Andre, I'm speaking to Malik Fakhruddin. Malik is a guy who's campaigning, I think, nationally now around COVID-19 and creating awareness. His dad sadly passed away as a result of COVID-19. So I'll be talking to him about that yesterday, but he's been listening to this conversation of ours. He says, "Thank you guys. I never knew that you can homeschool in South Africa." So once again, proof that not many people know about it, and this brilliant system is available. It's cost effective. I think if you look at the amount of money we spent on uniform alone for our kids, it's
Just
crazy.
imagine, no more
And how the
uniform.
school prescribes. Oh my God,
Yeah.
yes. And I mean, I think the biggest thing, if I had to tell my sons tomorrow, which I have to sadly admit, they're not homeschooled, not yet if it was up to me. If I had to tell them tomorrow, you don't have to cut your hair anymore, you can do your hair the way you want to, you can wear whatever you want to, you can apply and study whenever you want to, you can do the subjects you like first, all
Uh,
of those pros that allows the child to adapt to what he wants to do or she wants to do. I'm sure we'll have more successful human beings, because I think we often forget that school is but a component of life, and not life equals school.
yeah,
But yeah,
exactly.
thanks. Great. Thanks for the conversation, Andre. After all our
My
technical
pleasure.
issues this morning. Um,
No problem.
yeah, as I said, I'll share the
Anytime.
links of the resources. Yeah, I'll share the links of the resources. Hopefully, people will follow. I'm sure there are floods of inquiries for people to help others with homeschooling.
Yeah.
But you guys are brilliant, and you've always been willing to help, especially with the Pestalozzi Trust. That's the one thing I took from the conversation this morning, is that if you do decide to go for homeschooling for your
Yeah.
kids, join the Pestalozzi
Yeah.
Trust. The trust doesn't exist to make money. The trust exists to represent you legally
Yeah.
and to guide you with regard to compliance during the phase or during the age group where compliance is an issue.
Yes, but
Yeah.
they can go into the website and get the application forms in English and Afrikaans. Our secretary's email
Right.
address. They can just email the completed application form through to her. I was speaking to her yesterday, and she was saying she gets overwhelmed with all the applications that is coming through at the moment, because
Yeah.
so many queries to have. And I mean, we have our hotline is open 24/7. Should there be any legal problem or so, we are open 24/7
Right.
for legal advice. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Andre. I don't want to take more of your time, but I really appreciate you sharing this insights. And I'm sure many people will continue watching this as well as your earlier broadcast and be educated and guided with regard to homeschooling. Have a good afternoon and weekend further. Eh?
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Everyone.
Cheers now.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.